Greetings, back again here, and this is the Master System that I added the AV out, language and 50-60 Hz switches to. And I thought I'd add one more thing to this, and that will be a pause button on the controller, so that you don't have to get up and push the button on the system itself. And to do this, I'm gonna need one of these little momentary push buttons, and this is a 9mm, so that might be a bit too tall, but it will probably work. And I'll also need two 27 kilo ohm resistors, and this IC here, and this is a 4071 OR gate, so that's a 4071 OR gate, and this will go inside the system. And we'll also need a soldering iron and some solder, two Phillips head screwdrivers, one for the controller and one for the system, and some isolation tape and pliers, and a drill with a small drill bit, and a hot glue gun. So let's get started here, and I'm gonna begin with the controller. Alright, so we have the controller here, and we need to take this apart, so turn it over and remove the 6 screws on the bottom here, and the bottom part will come off, and then we can remove the circuit board, and we can remove these pieces here and get the buttons out. Alright, so we need to find a good place to put the button, and I'm gonna put mine over here, so that will be here. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill the hole here. Alright, so we have the hole for the button done here, and the next thing we need to do is attach the button itself to the circuit board. And to do that, we need our resistors, and we will attach these to one of the legs of the button, and then one resistor will go to the orange wire and the other will go to the yellow wire, and this is left and right on the D-pad. So that's both resistors to one leg on the button, and then one resistor to the orange wire and the other to the yellow wire. And then the second leg of the button will go to ground, and that is this wire down here. So I will go ahead and solder this. Alright, so I have the button soldered to the board here, and as you can see from this leg here, we have one resistor going to the left of the D-pad, and then we have the other resistor going to the right of the D-pad, and the white wire is ground. And I also put some isolation tape over here just to make sure that this doesn't short out. So now I can put the controller back together. Alright, so to make it a little bit easier to fit the cable in here, I have removed this little tab here, so there's a little more space in here. Alright, so now that we have the controller back together here with the button, it's time to take the system apart. and take the board out. And in my previous video I explained how to do this, so I won't do that again. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this apart. Alright, so we have the board out here, and now we need to solder a couple of wires to joystick port 1, and it's this one here, closest to the power button, and we have the pins for it right up here. So let's take a closer look at that. Alright, so these are the pins for the joystick port, and the ones we're interested in are pin 3 and 4, and those are for the left and right direction. And this one here is pin 1, and this over here is pin 5. So this is 3 and this is 4. So I'm gonna solder the wires to these two pins here. Alright, so I have the wires soldered to the pins here, and next we need 5 volts and ground, and I'm gonna take that from the voltage regulator. So if we move over here to the edge of the board, and you have the power button here, and if we go up here we have the voltage regulator here, and you can see it down there, and the pin closest to the power button is 5 volts, and the middle one is ground. So I'm gonna solder a couple of wires to these pins here. Alright, so I have the wires hooked up here. Now, going back to the joystick port, I just realized that I got the pins wrong. This here is actually pin 1, not pin 5. And this over here, this is pin 5. So, what this means is I have to desolder this wire here and move it over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Alright, so now that the wires are soldered on correctly, we can secure the soldering points with some hot glue, and then we'll turn the board over and start working on the other side of it. Alright, so I've turned the board over, and now we need to attach a wire to the pause button, and we have that one over here. So if we take a closer look at that, so this is the pause button. As you can see, it's written here, and we need to solder a wire to this point here. Alright, so I have the wire soldered onto the pause button, and now we just need to connect everything together. Alright, so now we need to attach all the wires to the IC here, and if you look up here you can see there's a little notch here, and with that pointing this way, on the top left pin we will attach the wire coming from pin 3 on the joystick port, and then on the next pin we will attach the wire coming from pin 4, and on the third pin we will put the wire coming from the pause button, and then on the bottom pin here we will attach the ground, and then on the top right one here we will put the 5 volts. And I'm going to use a little bit of perf board here, but you could solder the wires directly to the pins, but this will make it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and solder all the wires. Alright, so I have all the wires connected here, and I also put a little bit of hot glue on the wire going to the pause button. And if you do this, just make sure you don't get any glue on the button itself here. But yeah, this is all we need to do, so it's time to put this back together and test it. Alright. Alright, so I put the perf board with the wires and the IC down in the corner here, and I routed most of the cables behind here, and then I've just bent the shielding a bit to allow the wire from the pause button to stick out underneath here, and I also put some isolation tape over here just to be on the safe side, so there's no short outs. So yeah, I just need to put the top part back on. Alright, so I have the system hooked up here, and the controller is plugged in. So let's fire this up. And we have Alex Kidd in Miracle World, which is the built-in game. So we'll start that. And first here we have the pause button on the system, and that's working. And then we have the new pause button on the controller here, and as you can see, this is working perfectly as well. So no more need to get up and reach over to the system to pause the game. Can just push this button here. But yeah, that's all I had to show this time. So bye for now, and I'll see you soon.